executive pay has been increasing, while in real dollars, pay of the drivers, even the ones that are well off, is decreasing. I would support them going on strike to get more of the value that they create.
The Teamsters voted to strike by 97% nationally. 97% of the folks who voted to authorize a strike. This is really huge news, and this is where I want to solicit phone calls from Teamsters. I saw Will in the chat. I know that Jose typically listens, and I know that we do have a Teamster for UPS, at least one that I know of here in Huntsville that listens pretty regularly. Not going to be able to take calls during the main show, but at 11 o'clock, which is only now 25 minutes away, we will be able to take calls. And so, get ready for that if you can, if you have time, and if you'd be interested. Would love to hear from some UPSers during this show. So the phone number, so that you can go ahead and have it, is 844-899-TVLR. That is 844-899-8857.
Yeah, just a reminder, we can't take calls during the main show this morning because of the issues with the FM feed.
Yeah.
I know we did just have a caller I just saw get off the air. So I apologize, caller, to whoever that was.
Yeah. But call back.
You can call back after 11, and we'll get you on the air. But yeah, sorry about that. You wouldn't have been able to be heard on the FM radio, so it would have just been dead air.
Yeah. So, the Teamsters voted to strike by 97% nationally. Some locals had an even higher strike percentage. The leadership of the union has been campaigning for a strike authorization vote. Sean O'Brien urged people to vote to authorize them to strike. And so, and just so people understand, a strike authorization vote is not necessarily a vote to strike. It is a vote to authorize the bargaining team to call a strike. It's basically giving that power to the bargaining committee. But that means that the membership has given them the authority to call a strike, and the leadership of the union has made it very clear that come July 31st, which is the expiration of the contract, there will be no extension, and if they don't have a contract in place, that they will be striking on August the 1st. So They've been very clear about that, although I will just say, talking about the Teamsters and Sean O'Brien being very clear about stuff, they were also very clear about refusing to begin national negotiations until regional negotiations had concluded, which they did not do. They have begun national contract negotiations, and to my understanding, they have still not wrapped up all the regional negotiations. I think that the reason that they said that they started national negotiations, even though they haven't finished regional negotiations, is that they're like substantially complete. They're like really basic, that that they're saying that they're really most of the way there, that they're just kind of ironing out some kinks. But I was kind of disappointed to see that kind of backtracking, but I don't know. Hopefully he knows what he's doing, Sean O'Brien and the bargaining team there, and we'll see if he is as strong on the commitment to strike on August 1st. We'll see what happens there, but it would definitely be a very big deal if they do go on strike August 1st, which is only in 6 weeks now. And one of the things that I want to do here in the next couple of weeks is get on the leadership of our local Teamsters union to talk about what the effect would be locally here in Huntsville of a UPS strike. But just speaking nationally, it would mean 350,000 workers going on strike. That would be the biggest strike in the country since the middle of the last century. It would be the biggest strike against a single employer in the history of the country, which is really wild. UPS transports 6% of GDP daily, which is that's a lot of money moving around, a lot of capital moving around. That UPS's investors and their customers are really not going to be happy if that doesn't happen. And so, I want to address something that is that a lot of people will say, and that's that, these people, they make good money. They make good money. Why are they going to strike? And, just like, I'm not stupid, and I don't want to be, I don't want to advocate for the Teamsters from a position of dishonesty or anything, or for the advocate for the UPS employees from a position of dishonesty, or kind of obfuscating the reality. And the reality is that there are some people that work for UPS who make really good money. My uncle, who was the chief steward of the Teamsters in Huntsville for UPS back in the 90s and early 2000s, he retired in like 2002 making $32 an hour as a mechanic, right? No college degree or anything like that. And $32 an hour in 2002 is pretty different than $32 an hour today, right? Also, you know, the conditions at UPS have changed since 2000. They are a little bit worse, but there are still people who, like, you know, if you're a full-time driver for UPS, after 4 years, you're making like $40 an hour in Huntsville. I can't remember. It's been a while since I've looked at the contract, but the contract is public information. If you want to see what UPS drivers in your area are making, the full-time ones, you can look it up. It's all really pretty out in the open. And so that's good, and I'm happy for them, and their insurance is really good, the retirement is really good. And this is for the full-time drivers, and I'm going to talk about, you know, how many people are not that. But, you know, while we're just focusing on these full-time drivers, you know, there is a degree to which they have it really good. But I would say, even if all the employees at UPS were taken care of as well as the full-time drivers, I would still support them striking to get more. Why would I do that? Because look at the other side. In 2022, UPS made 13 point something billion dollars in profit. And just to remind people what profit is, right? Profit is revenue minus expenses. So, you know, they're getting some tens, dozens of billions of dollars in revenue, but they don't take all of that home, quote unquote, right? A lot of that goes to paying labor costs. A lot of it goes to capital improvements, to repairing trucks, to buying new trucks, to facility upkeep, building new warehouses, you know, all this stuff. There's a lot of money that goes into keeping up UPS, right? But profit is what you have left over after you've paid for everything. So $13.9 billion in profit. And that is a lot of profit. That's a lot to go around. And the executive pay has been increasing, while in real dollars, the pay of the drivers, even the ones that are well off, is decreasing. And so I think I would support them going on strike to get more of the value that they create. And this is the thing, right? Why? Because if that was the case and all these UPSers were making $30, $40 an hour, the entire conversation would be about, oh, they're so greedy, these greedy union workers. And it's never, ever about, look at this CEO making millions, tens of millions of dollars. They're greedy. Why is it that they're not giving up some of the money that they have to keep the machinery of UPS running? Of whatever company running. It's always about the workers and never about the company. Because if the company gave the workers what they wanted, what they needed, gave up more of the value that the workers create, workers would never strike, right? So, you know, just from a fundamental principle of fairness, I think it is crazy to suggest that the UPSers should not strike and should not get more of the value that they create. Okay? But that is the position of full-time UPS drivers is not the position of many people working at UPS. In fact, most people at UPS now don't make that. They're not in the same position as the full-time drivers. This is from Jacobin and Labor Notes, who co-published an article about the 97% strike vote authorization. 60% of the workforce now is part-time, making around the minimum wage in many regions of the country. 60% of the workforce is part-time. A lot of these people literally making near the minimum wage, okay? So we're, in fact, not talking about a workforce full of people making $30, $40 an hour. In fact, we're talking about a workforce that is majority low to middle, low to low middle wage workers. So don't allow people to confuse you when they throw out these stats about full-time drivers, because that's not the reality that most UPS workers face. Drivers in many locations are forced to work 6 days a week. They're forced to work. It's not voluntary. They have to work up to 6 days a week and up to 14 hours a day. Managers follow drivers in personal vehicles and relentlessly harass workers to scare them into working faster. In 2018, former Teamsters president James Hoffa forced a contract on members despite a majority voting against the contract. So back in 2018, a majority of UPS Teamsters said, no, we don't like this contract. But because of some old provision in the Constitution of the Teamsters, you could not, the executive board was authorized to impose a contract on a workforce if they did not vote more than 60% against it. So, so they voted, the executive board imposed this contract on them. And that contract kept part-time wages low and established a new second-tier 22-4 driver position. And the 22-4 position is named that way because of the section in the contract that establishes that position. Continuing from the Jacobin article, which resulted in new drivers making less money than existing drivers, despite doing the exact same work. It also gave this new second tier of drivers fewer overtime protections. So that is kind of the reality that a lot of UPS workers are facing right now. And so what are they asking for in these contract negotiations? UPS Teamsters are demanding a significant pay increase for part-timers to $25 an hour. They are demanding an elimination of the second-tier wages for package car drivers. They're saying we should all be on the same wage scale. They are saying that they're demanding an end to a forced sixth day of work. They are demanding raising pension payouts for 60,000 workers so that they're more equal across the country. They're demanding no driver-facing cameras. They want more holidays and an end to subcontracting and the use of gig workers, because that's another issue, is that some of the work now that UPS is doing is not even being done by UPS workers. It's being subcontracted out to people who pay less. And so the union at UPS wants to bring this labor in-house, which makes a lot of sense. And these are all eminently doable and reasonable demands from the union, from these workers. So let's look at the other side. What does Wall Street want from this UPS contract? And it's important to understand what Wall Street wants, because 60% of UPS is owned by private equity firms. And the majority of those stocks are owned by BlackRock and Vanguard. So really, the most parasitic of vampiric organizations on the face of the planet. So what does Wall Street want out of the UPS contract? They want steady and massive profits, and they want more. From their perspective, UPS is one of the great success stories of the pandemic. From 2012 to 2019, UPS yearly profits ranged from $7 to $8 billion. In 2020, when the rest of the economy was suffering from the pandemic, UPS made over $8.7 billion in profits, more than they had in the last decade. In the years since, they have reported the largest profits in its history. $13.1 billion in 2021 and $13.9 billion in 2022. So, Wall Street wants to further increase these profits in 2023 by asking for flexibility to schedule employees to work any of the 7 days in a week. They want installation of driver-facing cameras to harass workers, and they want to continue and expand the use of subcontracting and gig workers. And so, just imagine, you're coming off, you have made more money than ever in the history of your organization. And you are not honoring and respecting the people who made that possible and saying, I am so glad, I am so thankful that our team has come together and done so well during this pandemic. While a lot of people were working from home, while a lot of people were laid off and getting unemployment during the first 6 months of the pandemic or so, UPS drivers were still out there working. I'm so thankful of the sacrifices that UPS workers have made for this company that I'm going to honor them and respect them and not only am I not going to ask for any concessions, I'm going to say, you deserve more. You deserve some of this extra value that you've created. That is the common sense if you were thinking as a human instead of a lizard person, right? That's what you would be doing. But instead of doing that, after getting more profits than ever in the history of their company, UPS is saying, we want actually more than that. We want more than that, and we want more than that consistently, and we want you to give up more of what you get from the value that you create. Not only are we not going to say, yes, you deserve more and we have more to go around, so you're going to get more, they're saying, actually, wow, all these profits look really cool. I want to take more of it from you. Vampires, ghouls. Yeah, I don't know what else to, so that's kind of the situation here. That's kind of the situation here. And so I want folks to understand that when the corporate media, when local news, when right-wing shock jocks come on the radio, come on the TV, write in opinion columns and say, oh, these greedy union workers. Like, this is going to be up on YouTube later, okay? Go back and check this out on YouTube at the Valley Labor Report and just remind yourself of like what's actually going on. Because these people aren't going to want you to remember that. Really gross stuff. We've got Will in the chat from California. He's a UPS driver and a Teamster. He says, yeah, we make good money, but inflation has wiped that away. Also, we risked our lives keeping society running during the pandemic. We deal with extreme heat during the summer months. This job isn't a joke, and we need to be compensated fairly for it. And that point about the extreme heat is really important because there were drivers showing that during the summer last year that their trucks were getting up to 150 degrees. 150 degrees inside of the back where they keep their packages, where they have to come in and out of, all day, right? Gets up to 150 degrees in there, and they don't have air conditioning in these trucks. They don't have air conditioning in the cabs. They don't have air conditioning in the back. They don't have air conditioning anywhere in these trucks. And so fortunately, one of the things that that UPS has agreed to is they have agreed now to air conditioning in these new contract negotiations. They've come to a tentative agreement to say, okay, yeah, sure, in 2023, we'll install air conditioning in our trucks, which would cost, I think the estimate from the union to do this across the organization was something like tens of millions of dollars, maybe 50, maybe $100 million. Not very much, right? When you think about $13.9 billion of profit, you just take like a fraction of a percent of that, and you can give air conditioning to all these people. But until 2023, until there was the strike threat, the lizard people that are in charge of UPS said, not really. We're not really super interested in that. We'll just let you have heat strokes, actually. That's what sounds good to me, is my workers having heat strokes. So yeah, really exciting news on that front. Teamsters authorized a strike by 97%, and in 6 weeks, the union says if we don't have a contract, we're going to go on strike. So be ready to support them. I'll be on the picket line here in Huntsville. You just saw a clip from the Valley Labor Report. We are live every Saturday morning from 9:30 a.m. till 12:30 p.m. And we pride ourselves on keeping all of our content free to everybody so that we can talk to as many working folks as possible. If you support the work that we're doing, you think that it's important, you think that it's good, then consider making a monthly contribution to the project, and you can do that on our website, tvlr.fm.